There are so many different threads to pull on here. Oh, wait. Fittingly, pun not
Hey.
intended, but there are just quite a few threads to pull on here. And we can go in that direction of trying to name whatever the Sunday. We had Shoeless Joe Schmo suggest the Sunday Salvage, which is the Guardians' patented series sucked, but we're going to save face on the last game of the series, often on a Sunday, just before Zach is going to sit down and pen an article, or TJ and Zach are going to sit down and do the Selby is Godcast. Thank you for being here, by the way. And we're just going to take that off the board. We're going to take a little bit of the edge off. So I threw it out in our Discord. What do we call it? And I got the Sunday Salvage. What was your suggestion to me?
Well, I wanted it to rhyme with Sunday Scaries. So I said the Sunday Hail Marys. Because like you're just praying that you don't get swept by probably the American League's worst team, right?
Oh my goodness. So we'll get there. And then also we make light of it here in the beginning, but I want to reflect back upon just a few short days ago. For those of you that are Patreon supporters, you get the additional show per week, patreon.com/SelbyIsGodcast. And you get access to that Discord I just mentioned, which is just a community of us talking during the games. We're talking about roster moves and people creating different channels. I mean, it's no longer our animal. It is their animal.
There's like
whatever
a huge
our listeners
illegal gambling ring now.
I'm telling you. So on top of all of that, you also get Zach randomly dropping emojis or just hinting at leaks. And Zach, I love you, buddy. And this is why I'm worried about you. Because I don't want Major League Baseball to come looking and investigating where the leak came from of the Cleveland City Connect uniforms. You mentioned it. You joked about it on Friday. And then over the weekend, they actually leaked. Can we confirm that you had nothing to do with that, by the way?
No, I think it was... I knew they were dropping this Sunday night. And when it happened, when the leak, first of all, I learned about the leak through our Discord, which is reason enough to subscribe to the Patreon. You could have seen the jerseys there before anywhere else. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of fitting, right? Like they spent 2.5 years keeping this to such a tight inner circle. When they showed players the uniforms during spring training, they did it in a room without windows because they couldn't risk some random person walking past, peering in, seeing the uniforms on display, and taking pictures.
Hold on. Imagine being a player that's on the bubble of the roster and they tell you, hey, can you come join us in this room over here? And you know that room has no windows. What are you thinking is happening in there?
I don't know if you're going to be granted access if you're a non-roster invitee. But yeah, I mean, it was like this has been really buttoned up. And so, of course, 24 hours before they plan to unveil it, it gets out there. I don't know how you felt about them. I walked into a little sneak peek meeting really unsure of what was about to happen because I was thinking, if I think these look like absolute trash, are they going to be able to see that on my face? Am I going to have to feign interest and excitement? Like, what do you do in that situation? It's like when you're opening birthday gifts in front of a family member and you have to, even if you're like, oh my God, why do you, another freaking tie? What am I supposed to do with this? Your face has to show excitement and appreciation.
I love it. That's exactly what I wanted.
So, I don't know about you. I thought they were solid. The piping is probably the best part of them. When I was dreaming up what I was hoping they would
Smith's
be,
favorite part too.
I've wanted them to wear, and I had forgotten that they did this once, maybe like 2017. The 70s, I think they were in the 70s. The jersey, the blue alternate tops, they said Indians in like that font that we're all familiar with, like that block lettering, and they had the piping down the sides. And they wore those for a throwback night once in like 2017 or something. I thought those were great. I thought they should bring those back for like regular throwback nights. Obviously, they weren't going to go Indians or Chief Wahoo or anything on these. But that color scheme is so strong. And they only wear navy now on the road. So you get the navy with the gray pants, right? So it doesn't look quite as sharp, I think. In the
With
2016...
the contrast with the white pants, it looks real sharp. It does.
And in 2016, they wore those throughout the playoffs, home or road. Mm-hmm. So it was such a good look. It was sharp. So there are a lot of elements I like. I almost said elephants. I
Those
like
too. Don't have to leave them out.
The new Guardian logo that you'll see on the socks. I think you'll see on some T-shirts. I think there's a decent amount to work with here. I maybe wrote my story. Like, people are going to love them. People are going to hate them. You just don't want them to be apathetic, I think. And I think that a lot of people, like, if the Guardians would have swept the White Sox and we're sitting here like 28-13 or something, do you think the approval rating for these would be higher than they are after a rough series?
No, I just think it'd be easier to sweep it under the rug if they were bad.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't think they're bad.
No guitars. I told you.
No guitars. And you may be saying to yourself, guys, it seems like you're focusing a lot on the City Connect uniforms instead of the series that just happened. You might be right. You might be onto something. And we'll get there. Don't worry about it. Yeah, no, well, we have lots of thoughts and feelings to share. I was pleasantly surprised. I was scared, blankless, to be honest, that they were going to be, they were just going to suck. Just because this team's been on a roll lately of, they can't quite get things right in certain areas. Even I saw our pal Anthony Castrovins ripping into their new uniforms and saying that these ones should have been closer to what they wear on an everyday basis. Even I had seen that Josh Naylor suggested these should be our everyday uniforms, essentially. They're sharp. Now, I don't think you could wear CLE across the front as an everyday uniform, but imagine that font and lettering, shrink it down, and actually just says Cleveland. And even the C, I was looking at, so I zoomed in on the C part of the CLE, and I wondered, what if that was your everyday logo? Instead, I don't mind the C now. It's better than the block C they had before, which was very bland.
Yeah.
Very bland and vanilla. But I think I might actually like that C that's part of the CLE a little bit more, the design there. You disagree? Okay.
I don't love the font. I also will never have strong opinions about this.
Well, that's the thing. No one should be asking you. And I mean, look at this. This is like the 47th consecutive show. I'm wearing a black shirt with nothing, like a pullover with like we're not some fashionistas here. We don't know shit about any of this stuff. It's just, how does it make me feel when I look at it? That really, City Connect, it might have been our pal Justin Lotta that said it's really all about how the fans connect to the uniform. It doesn't matter what White Sox fans or Nationals fans or fans of anybody else thinks of the jersey if you like them. They're supposed to connect with your city. It's supposed to be something that you enjoy wearing. I've even liked the hat a lot. We have seen a lot of love for the hats that they're wearing during batting practice.
Well, these should be those. Because the diamond C on those looks so much better than the split finger fastball or whatever.
I know the different colors. That's hit and miss. It kind of looks like the Nationals have a cap like that's white on the front, and there's some different color variations.
With the Walgreens logo?
That goes like 50-50 with some people. But I think these look sharp. I really do. I think these uniforms, I'm not going to say there's a massive home run. I don't know. It's a City Connect jersey, but my baseline for what I like of the City Connect jerseys is way down here. I think 80% of the ones that have been revealed to this point over the years, I mean, I like a very small percentage of them.
Mm.
I don't like them.
There are very few that I love, but there are a lot that are just, they're fine. What can you really do with these?
You can wear these and not be embarrassed by it. In fact, I think you can wear these and feel like you look sharp wearing it. It's not groundbreaking. It's not, I don't know what would be groundbreaking in the uniform game. We've seen teams go for that. The Diamondbacks having 42 different combinations. Okay, that didn't go over well a couple of years ago. I don't know what the next step forward is for uniforms, but I can tell you this one looks nice. I like it. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but that you didn't have to clear that bar. I like these. I think they look sharp. I like the hat. I think you could take a bow. Good job. They look fine.
So they'll have them for 3 years, and they'll wear them every Friday home game this year. This coming weekend, they'll wear them Friday, Sunday. And then the pitcher chooses the next day's jersey as long as there's nothing getting in the way, you know, special holiday or something. So they have liberty to wear them at home whenever they want. I think you're going to see them pretty often. I think the players like them a lot. Curious to see what this means moving forward. I think like the socks look really cool. Those socks that you saw at Dick's Sporting Goods like 2 weeks ago, yeah, those were the real thing.
Nobody could keep a secret.
No one. And so I just wonder if that logo picks up momentum. I think people are going to like that logo a lot. I think like the one thing I appreciated throughout this process is they've not beaten us over the head with, well, you know, the sleeve has a little symbol that is supposed to mean togetherness because Cleveland is all like, they're not beating us over the head.
The whole split finger thing.
Yes.
They went with the logo. And
the winged G
just
logo is like a split finger fastball to honor our rich tradition of pitching. Like, come on. When I'm seeing that logo, I'm not thinking like, oh, that's right, Sam McDowell. No. So I think they limited that in this instance. And I do wonder if the Guardian logo that's on the socks will eventually pick up steam in just like the public perception and become maybe in the future like part. I have no knowledge on this. This is not something they've decided or hinted at, but I just, you know, this is not going to be. I don't think they're like tied to the current setup. Remember, the timeline here is really interesting because the name change happened July of 2021. They unveiled Guardians. They had the uniforms mocked up at that point. And they were as ready to go as they could be. They were so afraid that leaks were going to get out that they just ran with it then, even if they weren't quite ready. But you notice, like, the uniforms didn't change much.
The minute Tom Hanks finished that voiceover they had published,
right.
we can't have Hanks ruining this for us. We need to get it out.
And Hanks was in a windowless room too, you know. So you think about it. So that was July. The jerseys were pretty similar to what they already had. They just altered the font and they just replaced IND with GUARD. IN with GUAR. And that was it. You still had the red, you still had the navy, you still had the gray and the white. Like, not much change there. You know when they started the conversations with Nike about the City Connects? Well, first of all, they officially changed the team name mid-November of 2021. And like 3 weeks later, they're in a room with Nike talking about City Connects. So this was a chance to, like, they didn't want the name change, the rebrand, to be completely different. Like, they could have gone lime green uniforms and the logo could have been a puppy. Like, they kept things pretty similar to make the transition easier. Then they get in a room with Nike and it's like, blank canvas. You can do whatever you want. So I just wonder if this Guardians logo will eventually become something more important to them than just a 3-year, twice a month thing. I don't know.
Isn't that what it should be? Because there is no connection to Guardians. As much as they tried to force that, there was no connection at the time. The connection is going to be forged over time and memories and just organically. You can't force that. And as new fans come in and don't know anything other than Guardians, there is going to be several years from now, but there's going to be a time where no one's going to even remember. I mean, people will know that they used to be the Indians, but they're not going to talk about it. It's not going to be part of their thought process as far as being a fan. this is the Guardians. This is the baseball team that I love, and they've always been the Guardians for me. And so I feel like as this continues, this process, I agree with you. They didn't want to shift too much. They didn't want it to be this. I don't think they wanted to blindside anybody with, here's a completely new, different thing, and we already are trying to win over anyone that was just a feeling, a strong connection to Indians in the past. We don't want to go such a big left turn here that we throw them completely off. So I get it to an extent. Should they have taken more risks? Probably. But still, I can understand where they're coming from. But then as this evolves, you have to pay attention. You have to see, what do people connect with? You can't just continue to force something that nobody feels any sort of connection with. See what people gravitate toward, and then gradually move away from the things that people didn't gravitate toward, that they didn't feel a connection with. And I mean, this is just, in this case, it's just you. You feel a strong connection, not necessarily from a fan perspective, but just looking at it, feeling like it's a good match for this team and this fan base. I don't know how anybody else is going to feel about that, but it is something as a team you have to pay attention to when you're trying to forge a new identity and move forward away from what you used to be into what you're going to become.
It's very hard to have something like this be widely liked. Like the Nationals cherry blossom ones were awesome. Are there any other ones that are everybody's on board? Or
I'm telling
of
you. No, there's going to be none.
And I love the Braves. And those are pretty similar to their uniforms from 50 years ago. I don't mind the Mariners, the Reds. There are some bad ones like the Rangers, Baltimore's. I like the Padres. We don't need to do this, but I do think
tier list coming up. Let's do the tier list.
Yeah, I think most of them are harmless. And if they're bad, you hope they just don't wear them like every home game.
Yeah. I think you just, if they are bad, you say, hey, we took a giant swing and we missed.
And the bottom line,
don't try to pretend like they're great, but just say, hey, we took a chance.
It doesn't matter.
I respect that more than trying to pretend like you don't see the giant dumpster fire.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if they're wearing white, blue, red, gray, or navy sandstone with Art Deco inspired font. Gabriel Arias still has to catch the ball and hit the ball.
Whew. Speaking of which, we have lots of thoughts about this weekend. Boy, this felt like a series against Chicago, given the Twins have been surging, the Royals continue to be playing good baseball. The Tigers are going to hang around. This is the one team you're supposed to beat up on. Now, granted, over the course of 162, you don't just continue to beat up on every bad team and sweep them all and take 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, or else they would end up in the season with 20 wins. They would end up with 20 wins. That doesn't happen over the course of the season, but this felt like the stretch in the schedule where it's like, okay, that should be an easy layup for you to take 3 of 4 from them. I know all the games were close. There were some plays not made. There was also a lot of offense, and there was a lot of not scoring some runs. But not only did it feel like a giant missed opportunity to not take 3 out of 4, or now looking at it, it seems crazy, to sweep this series, given the way that it went, to drop 3 of 4 to this team. I mean, it would have been extremely unacceptable to get swept by a team like this. But 3 out of 4, I mean, dropping 3 out of the 4 that to me is not too different from getting swept. Even if you manage to come back and score 7 runs and actually score 1 more run in this series than the White Sox in the matchup.
They're in such a weird place. It's so hard to analyze them at the moment because if you remove what you know and you look at this, let's start with the standings, okay? 25 and 16.
Not much.
25 and 16, 610 winning percentage. Excellent. Hard to argue that. If I would have told you that in March, you would have signed up for it. You would have been thrilled. Run differential, plus 42. That is just right in line with all the other heavy hitters in baseball. The Dodgers are plus 74. I think they're playing a different sport. The Phillies, who, if you want to talk easy schedules, they've notoriously played like 95% teams under 500. And they've done what you should do against them. They're 28-13. Congrats to them. They're plus 62. But the Guardians are not far off from the Yankees, the Orioles, the Royals. So run differential, like that shows that's healthy, right? Against teams over 500, they're 13-8. Home and away, winning record both. Like, if you don't know who they've played when, how they've played, how each individual on the team has done, you'd be like, hey, this is great. Sign me up. On pace to win like 98 games. Sounds great. All right, see you in October. But that's it. Like, if you look individually...
We do know more. Yeah, we have seen. We do know a little bit more. That's
right.
The thing.
Individually, the season makes no sense. And I think we said this the other day before the series started. We said, look, there is a way for this to be sustainable. And it is for your key players to play how you need them to play. That's Ramirez, it's Naylor, it's Jimenez, it's getting Kwan back, it's getting Gavin Williams back, and it's getting Tanner Bybee and Tristan McKenzie to pitch like they can pitch. And that's not inconceivable. You would certainly think Ramirez and Naylor will be fine. You would think Jimenez would be fine. Like, I don't think that's too much to ask, and that's probably just what you need for this team to be in the hunt all year. And then if they can do that, you would think that they would add at the deadline, maybe, you would think. And then, like, you'd be in a good position. The problem is that everything else is a train wreck. I don't even know where to begin. You can say, like, if you asked people, what's the first problem they need to tackle? You're going to get some who say Laureano, some who say the shortstop position, some who say center field, some who say catcher, some who say the rotation. I don't know where to begin. There are a lot of holes on this ship. And I'm not saying it's going to sink, but I'm saying losing 3 or 4 in Chicago wasn't the most shocking thing in the world. Especially like Garrett Crochet, like that seemed teed up for him to pitch well against them. He's really good. So I don't know where they go from here, because you're getting close to the time where you have to make decisions. And if you're the Guardians, like, you wish either the results were better or the information was clearer, maybe. Because it seems like, like Florial looked completely lost and miserable for a week. And then like he does what the Guardians do on the last minute when you've written him off. Then he has a couple of hits. He has an extra base hit, or he hits a home run, or he looks the part. And he's not the only one who does that. So I don't know. Where do you begin here?
I think that's the point. You could just take a dart, throw it at the dartboard, and hit somebody, just their name, not actually hit them. And we could have a whole conversation about what we feel about them in the moment. And I think we're at the point of the season where you're teetering between still being able to say, it's early, calm down, it'll be fine. And also, and I think that would be a fun line to walk today. I have an idea. Let's run through some of these players. And between the two of us, I want one of us to pick the calm down side of things. That everything's going to be fine. It's early. It's not so bad. Just take a more measured approach. Then I went the other person, might be me, to overreact a little bit and tell you what the other end of that spectrum is and try to talk you into why this team is in trouble. And I think maybe through that, we find our way to the middle where the truth is somewhere in between.
And I have enlisted special help from a third party here. He has no idea that I've enlisted his help. Well, I take that back. He saw me recording him and clammed up. But I have 16 more years to do this. You know how my son, who is about to turn 2, has memorized the Guardians media guide. He's working his way currently through the Baseball Hall of Fame annual program. We were in a store the other day, and he's just blurting out Craig Biggio, George Brett, Nolan Ryan. It's insane.
Your son does that with baseball players. my son can name the top grossing YouTubers
Nice.
and their net worth. So yeah, take that for what it's worth.
Some of these you might not be able to quite understand. I can translate for you, but he will introduce some players for us.
Oh, goodness. I can't wait for this. All right, let's do it.
All right. So let's start with his favorite player. Did you catch that? That's the other thing. He talks really fast. Andres Jimenez.
It sounds like Andres Jimenez, yeah.
I want to start there because when he fouled the ball off his knee on Sunday and was crumpled and writhing in pain for 5 minutes, didn't you know he was going to hit a home run on the next pitch?
Seems to go that way.
I will take. Well, what do you want? You want the rational take or the chaotic take?
I feel like I could go both ways on. So I'll take the chaotic. I'll take the overreaction. You give me the measured take on Jimenez.
The measured take is what I just said is what you can point to. He is so good that and so smooth that he can just hit a home run 2 seconds after, like knocking his kneecap, dislodging it from his leg. So that's in there. So he'll be fine. He's so well-rounded. He's so calm. And there's more in there than a 649 OPS. There's more power. He's on pace to steal like 20 bases. He could probably even do a little more. He's going to be fine. And you're getting Gold Glove defense. I mean, every single day he makes a play that no one else would have made in that same situation.
I mean, that's great. That's great, Zach. Good. You just keep building that WAR total because I need it for my own WAR team, and we both need the help at this point. But I'm not paying him to just be a solid guy that plays some defense, steals a few bases. You might say, well, you're not really paying him to be the 142 WRC plus he was a couple of years ago. Okay, but he needs to be better than 97 last year or 87 entering today, up to 91 today with that home run. Needs to be better than that. And so my panic take is the more time in between 22 and today, and he's not quite that guy, you can't keep falling back on, well, he'll get there. He'll get back there. He'll have that another Robbie Alomar type season. He'll put that together. He'll be just fine. So I'm worried, not that I think he's a bad player or even that the Guardians are ever going to regret the contract. I don't feel that, but I do get worried when we see him only have a couple of bombs so far this year, still not ever getting into a consistent rhythm offensively the way he did a couple of years ago. So you kind of need to get it in gear a little bit more, Andres, and especially without that guy in front of you in the lineup that is so key to this lineup, maybe the most important hitter on this team, given the fact that they all fell off a cliff the minute he's no longer in the lineup in Stephen Kwan. There is more pressure. They need him to be more than just a semi-solid player here. He needs to be close to an all-star for that to really work for this club.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. Forget everything I said. And also, you can keep cycling through Florial and Freeman and Rocchio and anyone else who has never really shown signs of life this year in the leadoff spot. Or, here's an idea, just move everybody up one spot. Hit Jimenez first, Jose second, Naylor third, Fry fourth, lefty or righty, and go from there. You don't have to stick someone else in the leadoff spot just because Kwan was hitting leadoff. Mike Freeman doesn't have to hit third just because Jose's getting a day off and Freeman's playing third base.
Who mentioned that? Who brought that up last week? I don't know.
Didn't both of us?
I'll give you credit. I think
you were
came
fawning
up with it
over
first.
my ideas.
Yeah, I was backing you up the way a good hype man does.
All right. I don't know if you're going to be able to understand these, but we'll keep going with Charlie. That was Estevan Florial. He's reached the point where he's just like, this is too easy for him, so he just blows through all these names.
Okay, let me go first here. I'll take the measured response. This kind of goes back to what I said last week over at Patreon. I'm just fine with him being my Hail Mary off the bench, not just on Sundays, but every single day. And I will continue to carry him because there are times, despite his deficiencies at the plate and the ways you can attack him, major league pitchers are still capable of making mistakes. They might be looking for, high velo. They may be trying to get it past him up in the zone. But guess what? Guys aren't perfect all the time. So I will take the chance that he's going to impact one game every single week for me, not in an everyday role right now, but coming off the bench, being able to change the game with his hitting it past the center fielder and sprinting around the bases like a monster, or being able to change it with a home run. The problems with Florial is because you're asking more than you should be of him. I think if you're asking what you should be, you're getting not maybe what you want right now, but you're getting what is acceptable out of a guy that's sort of a bench reserve bat at this point.
Do you think he would agree with that? Do you think he's like,
not.
hey, stop putting me in the lineup every day? I know I was a top 50 prospect, and I put up enormous numbers every year in the minors.
I tell you what.
Including last year at AAA, when I hit 28 home runs, and I stole a bunch of bases, and hit a bunch of doubles, and drew a bunch of walks, and looked like this behemoth in the minors beating up on inferior pitching at 25 years old. Stop playing me every day. No. All that was just hype. It was Yankees minor league prospect hype. No, I'm just a part-timer at best.
That mindset, if he had that thought process, then I would join you on the panic side of things. If he didn't want to be in the lineup every single day.
He ranks 10th on the team in at-bats, but second in strikeouts. And you knew there were going to be strikeouts. He's got swing and miss in his game, but you have to then find a way to hit more than 3 home runs in 80 at-bats or be hitting better than 200, and especially in the leadoff spot. I mean, I've never been behind that. I understand he walks, but he's not Carlos Santana. He's not even Kyle Schwarber. And maybe your dream for him is one of those guys, probably more Schwarber, but he's not there yet, and he might never get there. So you got to start small.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're thrusting him into more because you have a lack of Quan right now. So now you're asking him for more. If you're asking him to do this, then I don't like this. I don't want him to be in an everyday role at this point. If he earns more of it by just showcasing that he should have more playing time, that'd be one thing. But having to play him, no, I don't necessarily like that in this part of his development. Then I would be joining you on the panic side of things.
All right, let's see who's next. Tyler Freeman. What do you think?
I'm kind of ready to panic.
You want me to be measured then?
Let me tell you why I'll panic. We won't keep it in the same order all the time. Yes, he did. He hit the home run the same day we said, hey, where did this power go? Where did some of the better contact and impact in the ball go? This guy looks like he's kind of lacking confidence at the plate. Then he goes deep. And so maybe I'll just continue this. I'll just say, where did the power go? Where did the impacting the baseball go? I was excited in the first month because it seemed like he had changed a little bit about him underneath the surface to be more than just the slap hitting guy. And I was willing to go along with him on this journey as he tried to figure out how to become that, because it's not something that happens overnight. When you're changing mentalities and trying to be a guy that does bring doubles and home runs more than he ever did before. So I was willing to give him some time there, but we just haven't seen enough of it consistently here. And it's not like he's really showcasing a lot here other than playing a more capable center field than some other guys have in their opportunities. I'm salivating at the thought of going to the AAA depth chart and starting to see who I could envision playing center field.
The AAA depth chart where you could find
Tell me why I shouldn't be panicked about Tyler Freeman. Tell me why everything is going to be fine here.
I can't. I want to take the rational take, but it's hard.
3 names. Throw the segment away.
It's hard because I believe, like, there's look, just because you put up good minor league numbers does not guarantee anything. We know that. But there is a good hitter in there. Like it's not everyone who has good minor league numbers becomes a universally beloved top 100 prospect. He was top 50 at certain points, I believe. And there is a good hitter in there. I'm kind of wondering if like he's caught in between offensive profiles. Like, what do you want to be? Are you that contact hitter who wants to spray the ball around like Quan and just needs to rely on line drives? Or do you want to access more power? I mean, he's got 4 home runs, which seems like a lot for him at this point in the season, but he's not hitting. And I just don't know what the best approach is for him. And look, he's smarter than I would be at this. The hitting coaches have done more research than I have on this, but you know, I look at his metrics and like, yeah, the exit velo way better this year. The hard hit rate way better this year. That's great. The barrel rate leaps and bounds. That's awesome. The whiff rate and strikeout rate are up a little bit. You know, the walk rate is marginally
that's
up.
fine. That's fine.
The chase rate, though, we've said it so many times. If you're going to be a contact guy, if that's your calling card, you can't chase because you're going to make weak contact. That's just going to kill you. And so, if you're going to...
You got to be a rise up there. You got to have just the most elite hit. You got to be Stephen Kwan.
That's what I'm saying, though. So like, pick a lane here. Who are you? Because I don't know if he's got the goods to be Kwan light. And it seems like now he's trying to hit, like, I haven't looked, I guess I can look at the launch angle. Yeah, launch angle is more than doubled. So you're hitting the ball in the air and you're hitting it harder, but it's not, you know, you're not some huge hulking slugger here. And you're still trying to be a contact. But I don't know. When I try to envision Tyler Freeman at his peak of his powers, what does that even look like? I have no idea. It's certainly not, after seeing him the last 6 weeks, it's not what I used to think it was, which was like Kwan-esque.
Maybe Will Brennan is just further along in this journey than Freeman is. But the biggest thing about Freeman, if he was still performing the same way in May that he did in April, we're talking about the type of contact that he was making, then I would still be on this measured train. I don't want to panic about him, but it's just, can you maintain that? And I will give you the credit as much as you deserve when the process is still good. Like with Will Brennan, he's not a finished product in trying to be a guy that hits the ball harder. He's not, because a lot of contact has been on the ground. It's limited some of his expected numbers, despite the fact that there's some good things happening. But the good things continue to happen. It's just a it's just about massaging your way to getting everything else to where it needs to be to optimize the level of contact that you're making now. And that continues for Brennan. And so that's why, I don't know if you have a clip here for him, but if you were to play a Will Brennan clip, I would say he is someone that I am
Willie.
not I'm not panicked about Brennan right now. And he's fluctuated for me. He's a guy that I liked when he first came up, but I saw some potential warning signs going through last year. I really, I don't want to say stopped believing, but I wasn't as big of a believer. I didn't have as much faith as I had initially when he was in the minor leagues. But now he's continued the good things enough that I'm going to give him the runway to figure out how to best optimize it. But for Freeman, he was doing still some of those same things and even finding his way to some home runs. But he hasn't continued that. It's not it's not like he's hitting the ball hard, but he's just not hitting it where he needs to, and you're working through that like we're seeing with Brennan. With Freeman, it hasn't been as much of that recently. So if he gets back to that, if he gets back to finding the stronger contact, and it's just a matter, okay, we're hitting the ball a little bit too high now. So we need to maybe adjust and try to work more for some line drives, or, however a hitting coach has to get to a hitter. But I will buy into that. But right now, it seems more like that was a really good 2 to 3 week stretch where he was hitting the ball, and now we're kind of getting back into not doing any of the good things that you were doing before, but also still working through the bad things that were happening alongside the good things. And now it's just all bad. I don't know if any of that made sense.
No,
I can't get this out. I have it in my head, but I can't get it out.
I think part of the issue too is they're evaluating all these guys who play the same position and are at similar points in their development. And you're going to have to make calls on them soon. I'm with you. Brendan's metrics look really good. You can see the improvements. The walk rate's up a decent amount where it's getting close to being tolerable. You know, he still doesn't strike out a ton. The hard hit rate is up a giant amount. The launch angle is up. The exit velocity, like if you didn't see his actual stats and you just looked at his metrics and some of the below the surface numbers, you'd think he's having a really good season. So I don't worry too much about him. I'd like for him to like really go on a tear against righties before you're just throwing him in there every day against lefties. But I in saying that, I don't think we need to rule out him being an everyday player yet. I think he's earned a longer leash in that regard, whereas other guys like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I don't want to see Florial against a lefty anytime soon.
So the way I think about it with Brennan, he's a major leaguer because he has some skills that I think you can tap into. I don't know if it's an everyday player. I still am skeptical about that, but I think this is a guy that you have on your bench at worst that helps you. And then Freeman looks, I'm still asking this question about, are you a big leaguer? And to me, Freeman is a big leaguer right now because of his versatility, because of the positions that he can play and the fact that he swings from the right side. That helps out this team. But yes, versatility is the skill, but I'm also looking like, what is the other skill that you're bringing that I'm looking to get your bat into the lineup? For Brennan, I'm seeing some of that. Now, this could all change in the next week. If Brennan goes the other direction and Freeman starts to tick back up, that's the difficulty here of trying to evaluate this in the smallest of sample size bubbles. But how do I feel about this right now? I'm seeing Brennan underneath the surface doing some better things. Freeman, I'm looking for him to get back to what he was doing in the first several weeks of the season.
I don't have a audio for this, but let's shift to shortstop. Rocchio and Arias are going to be intertwined for eternity. So, to me, it's more the position. I mean, if you want to break these guys down individually, we can, but to me, it's like shortstop is in the right hands where they found, like, can either of those guys be the solution? What's the rational take there? What's the chaotic take?
I would love to find some glimmer of hope right now with Arias. And it seemed like he was really starting to grasp it. Like towards the end of April, it really felt like he had found his little niche here and maybe was eager to bite off a little bit more of the playing time with Rocchio. And since that point, my God, it's just gone off a cliff for him offensively and defensively. And I've seen some takes. Obviously, I'm not around the team anymore, but I've seen some takes trying to read between the lines of what people are saying about Arias and his defensive work. To me, I looked at that as more of a Arias. This is just my read from the outside, is trying to do some psychology, which I probably shouldn't do. To me, it's probably the case of Arias has always been so good defensively that it's tough for him to kick it up another notch because it's always come so easily for him defensively, no matter where he's at. And so now you're running into a stretch here where you're missing some balls or you're going to go play a new position and you're not looking great out there. And so you're going to get called into question. Are you putting in the work to try to be better? And for him, I mean, that's up to him to answer. And between him and the organization, in the work that he's putting in, he's going to have to answer for that with the organization. But he's not doing anything with the bat that justifies trying to continue to work him in right now. And just when I want to give him some credit for seeming like he's maybe showing some polish to his game and refining elements of it, he'll get back into these situations. He's just swinging at everything, or he'll take a fastball and swing at a rotten breaking ball. And it's like, what is the thought process? What are you trying to accomplish up there? It's tough.
This was the issue last year. It seemed like he didn't have a plan. And there was a perfect at bat Saturday. Mike Clevenger, fidgeting on the mound, had him 0-2. And he threw 3 straight sliders, I believe, that didn't sniff the strike zone. I mean, it was like he was facing Javi Baez and just assumed, hey, if I throw it in the neighboring zip code, he'll swing at it. And Arias didn't. He took them all. But then he also, I think he swung through a 94-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle. And it just said to me, like, you don't know exactly what you're looking for and when you should be looking for it. And I'd like you to show me a successful hitter who's walks twice for every 27 strikeouts they have. That's just not a recipe for success. I can look at Rocchio and say, yeah, he doesn't hit for any power, but at least he's walking a decent amount. 14 walks to 24 strikeouts. Like, Rocchio's not hitting. Like, I'm not saying he's the answer there. I don't know. But I'm
But at
more
least
comfortable.
we're seeing a trend upward.
Yeah, I'm more
Like,
comfortable
at least
with the
there's some.
at-bats he's giving. If there's a runner on
Yes.
third and nobody out, I'd rather have Rocchio up than Arias. If there's nobody on base, I'd rather have Rocchio up than Arias. And Arias is one home run. Like, it's not like he's the one thing he could be is a defender with an elite arm who you hope, like, there's 20 home run power in there, but you don't know that he is a good, skilled enough hitter to unlock it. So I don't know what the answer is at shortstop. And we've joked for like years that, like, hey,
there's no measured take. It's all just panic.
yeah,
at this
man,
point.
I collect Pokemon cards, man. I've been collecting them for decades. Yeah, they're all Squirtles, but is that a bad one? Like, if you're gonna be collecting something,
No,
you got to make sure
it's a
that
starter Pokemon.
there's some gems in the collection, right? And then you look at AAA and you wonder, like, okay, if it's not Rocchio, if it's not Arias, is it Jose Tena? Like, I don't know. Is it Daniel Schneemann? That one's hard to say. He's been just raking. I
Fun
know
to
he's
say, too.
27 years old, which is like ready for AARP in terms of prospects, but I don't know. Is he worth a shot? Or do you even go to Juan Brito? Like, he's finally starting to pick it up after a really slow start.
I like the way you said that.
There's going to be
Give me that one
some-
again. I want to hear that again. Juanito.
There's going to be some
I like that.
a lot to figure out. I don't know what they do there. And it's got to be embarrassing. You became known for just stockpiling
Hoarding.
middle infielders.
Hoarding.
And yes, Jimenez has worked. Like, you just said that he's not very good, but yeah, he has worked. You got one right there.
I said he needs to be better. He needs to be better.
But
not
man,
that he's not very
you're
good.
still searching
You're
for a
putting
shortstop, and you
words in my
have there's no end in sight to this. That's crazy.
Yeah, nobody really feels like there's no. It sort of feels like Rocchio has to be the guy. He has to, because there's no other perfect fit. You know, Brito's not playing shortstop for you. God, people don't even think he's going to play second base. People don't wonder if he's going to even have a position.
Can you imagine if Daniel
depending on who
Schneemann
you're
was the
asking.
guy? Like, that's like,
he's the guy.
I'm trying to think of like the comparison. That's like Dorian Thompson Robinson being the answer at Browns quarterback after all these years.
I'm going back and watching old episodes of Monk. I don't know if you ever watched Monk back when it was on, but I don't know. It's just been a good comfort watch late at night. And he'll just randomly pick like the most obscure character, and he's like, "That's the guy." And somehow by the end of the episode, you realize he's right, and that'll be it. Schneemann, that's the guy. How would he was not even in the same zip code to commit that crime? No, that's the guy, and you find out by the end of the episode.
It was a cute story in spring training because he was the guy who always hustled and like did whatever they needed and could play any position. And the way they fawned over him in spring training made me think, hey, like this guy, like if they have an open 40-man spot and someone's on the injured list and they need someone to come up for 10 days just to play middle infield, he earned his shot, even though he's 27. Not a prospect, not a top prospect by any means. It was a 33rd round pick 6 years ago. And now I'm like, is this guy the dude? Is this the guy they've been waiting for? I don't know. OPS over 1,000. He's just crushing the ball, drawing a ton of walks. I don't know. Sure, let him try it. That can't hurt.
That's what I was quickly trying to pull this up again to get the most updated statistic I had. he's second on the team in expected weighted on base average, which again takes into account the quality of contact, the strikeouts, the walks, your exit velocity, launch angle, all that stuff. He was second only to Kyle Manzardo. So it's not even like he's sort of lucked his way into having better numbers, or he's batted ball lucked his way into getting there. Below the surface, it suggests he's actually hitting the ball extremely well. Sure. What? I mean, I was going to ask you, and this doesn't have to be a full segment, but I was going to ask you who we're going to see first, Brito, Jonathan Rodriguez, or George Valera.
Wait.
It might be none of those guys.
He's been saying his name for days.
I couldn't even say it. He's getting it out perfectly.
Or you said him. I mean, so Jonathan Rodriguez to me seems like the eventual replacement for Ramon Laureano. Both right-handed sticks, outfielders, and they're very worried about losing Laureano, not because losing a guy who has a 514 OPS and has struck out 31 times in 67 at-bats. I did not realize that. Good Lord. 3 times as many strikeouts as hits. Is that good? But they need a right-handed presence, especially like with Quan out, because he could play every day. You're having a Brennan.
What kind of presence is that?
But the Laureano they were hoping to see that they paid $5 million for.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you've got, I think we both agree Fry should play more. And he'll certainly play against lefties, and we're seeing him play against more righties. You're seeing him work in at catcher, left field, first base, whatever. That's great. But you also want Manzardo in there as much as makes sense. And you don't want to overexpose like Florial against lefties, or maybe Brennan against lefties. And are you losing patience with Freeman? Like, there are ways to mix and match this, but the bottom line is like they don't have a ton of right-handed bats. So if they get rid of Laureano, it would make sense if they called up Rodriguez, because he's a right-handed stick who has pretty much proven all he can prove at AAA.
Well, here's the thing with Laureano. I believe if you just kept him and let him continue to play by the end of the year, he'd still be helping you somewhat against lefties. I really don't think he just forgot how to hit against left-handed pitching.
I don't know.
But
looks bad.
But here's the thing, Zach. While he's doing this, I have another guy potentially in Rodriguez that might be able to fill this role. But in the meantime, I'm learning nothing about Rodriguez, and I would just like to test Rodriguez. Like,
it's not like Laureano's going to be
the
here
lab.
past 2024. There's no upside here.
That's what I mean. So, like, maybe there's not a drop-off. Maybe there is, but I'll take the risk because I would rather just find out if this other guy down in the minor leagues is capable of filling that role for me, or more, or he sucks. But either way, all of those outcomes, I cross another guy off the list, and I go on to the next man, whoever that happens to be in the next year or so.
And it could be... That's George Valera. He seems like the Florial replacement to me. They're in a weird spot because they're going to have to treat him differently than they normally treat prospects, because you need an answer on him. I believe he's got this year left on the 40, and that's it. I know this guy is in that boat where this is, I believe, his last year with an option, and then you need an answer on him, and I don't know how you're going to get a good one that quickly. I think Valera's in the same spot. He might have one more year. I don't remember when he was placed on the 40. But the point is, the guy was at AAA last year. He's at AAA this year, and I think you have a decent idea of like the type of hitter he can be, where he's going to be 3 true outcomes heavy, and he might struggle against lefties, but he can draw walks and he can hit for power. And that's what you're hoping Florial does too. So if Florial doesn't take advantage of his time, like maybe Valera could. And so you can make that switch at some point if you want.
That's one option remaining for Valera.
Okay. So this year, and then that's it.
So, well, if you were to bring him up and then, I mean, you've already burned, right? You've already burned it to put him down in the minor leagues. So this is the option year?
Well, what does Noel say? They're on the same.
He's got one too.
So then, yeah, that's.
I'm trying to figure out how when they listed here how it's listed.
So then they're
in
on
any
the same
case,
timetable.
But here's the thing. Oftentimes you're looking for who's tearing it up at AAA. I want to give them the opportunity. I think at some point, I don't know if we're there yet with all of them, but at some point, if it's Brito, whether it's Rodriguez or Valera, I'm not even caring what they're doing at AAA because
That's what I mean.
they've been on the radar, especially Valera. He's been on the radar so long that even if he's just being average down at AAA, it's time to call him up. It's time to give him something at the major league level and quit searching for the right time. And I mean, he's had so many hurdles in place because physically he hasn't been able to stay on the field, and that's unfortunate. That's lots of guys have just never, their major league careers were either delayed severely or never got going because of injury. That's unfortunate. But still, I'm to the point where I don't care what his AAA, unless he's 0 for his last 40 with 37 strikeouts. I really don't care what the AAA numbers say about him, because at some point you just need to go. You need to call him up, get this over with, see what happens. Because I can't see a scenario where you never call him up and you never find out unless you traded him for something else that you needed. And that's the only scenario.
And then you're trading
Otherwise,
him for 25 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, you invested all this time and energy and you never called him up. It'd be one thing if everybody was just kicking ass at the major league level. Well, that's not the case right now. So I think at some point, whether it's Laureano, whether you said it's Florial, somebody, I need to find out about Valera. And Brito's going to be there too. Maybe not as soon as Valera, but Brito, it's like if he's just okay down there, I don't care. Time to get him up. Time to see what you do under the big league. See, with working with major league data and major league coaches and better lighting or whatever the case may be, you unlock your full potential. You're just going to have to test it. You just have to run them out there and see.
Should they regret sending back Davison De Los Santos? That's a mouthful for a 2-year-old. Have you seen his numbers?
God, could you imagine De Los Santos and he's doing it against Double-A pitching where he should
same
be.
level as last year, but OPS bordering on 1,100, 11 home runs already.
You imagine Florial and De Los Santos trying to figure out where you're getting those at bats.
Would supply enough wind energy to power.
Then again, how many strikeouts for Laureano?
Quite a few.
They put themselves in this situation because I've always tried to figure out I've had this thought internally, how do I get this again outside my head? And it's, how do they keep running into situations where other guys go and they're not even stars? Like Palacios is not a star with Tampa Bay, but they find a way, just give him an opportunity, and occasionally I see him helping. I don't know if that's a long-term thing. I don't know. But I picture Gabriel Arias getting away and going to the Tampa Bay Rays somehow or something. And it's not that he's a starter, but they're finding a way to make this work. What they're doing with Rosario right now. Rosario was on fire for a while, and we've seen that before. We see how that goes for him. And to me, I'm wondering, they always are asking these players to be the answer at any given position. And when they're not the answer, they have somebody else that's pretty close in talent, and they have equal question marks about. So they have to move on because they have to make room for this other guy that may be better, maybe better, maybe not. But they have to ask themselves whether or not they are better. And so then they jettison the other player. And it's like, if you had a team where you didn't have to make Gabby Arias the starting shortstop, and you were absolutely fine with him being this guy that only plays 3 times a week, maybe less, helps spell you defensively, moves around the diamond, whatever, and then he had to slide up into a starting role in a pinch because somebody got hurt or whatever the case may be. I just wonder if they put themselves in this position because not enough guys have grown up to be the guy, the unquestioned guy like Josh Naylor has. And so, because everybody's so close in this range, in this bucket, you move on to the next guy in a more perfect situation, you just hold on to him and let him be on the bench and let him grow and get older and see if they ever improve. I still don't know if that makes sense, but I think because of where they've been at in this evaluation for so many years, they've ran into some bad choices because they're always having to make. It's not a question of, is this guy a major leaguer? We want to keep him around. They have to ask, is this guy a starter? And if he's not, then they have to move on to the next guy that might be a starter. And they end up missing out on a guy that's a role player, but still is a helpful player.
I think a lot of it can be the situation too. I mean, the phrase of this guy needed a change of scenery, I think it's so cliche, but what it really boils down to is if it's not working and you're in the same environment, there's just natural pressure that's going to mount and mount and mount. And eventually that bursts and you go somewhere and you succeed because one, there's less pressure on you. You've technically failed somewhere and you get humbled and you go somewhere new and the pressure's off and you just have a new voice in your ear. You know, maybe a coach uncovered something that your previous coaches didn't. Maybe you just connect better. Maybe it's a placebo effect and you just think that the change of scenery is going to do you good because it's a change of scenery and nothing really changed, but it is mental pressure that you're removing from yourself because especially when you've been in an organization, you've come through it and like like these guys know. You think Tyler Freeman doesn't realize like, hey, you've made the transition to center field. You've done a great job on defense. Like we've teed this up for you. Just take it and run with it. And he can't. And I'm sure every single night he struggles to go to sleep because he's thinking like, God, I'm hitting 185 and I've never struggled like this at the plate before. And I've done everything I can defensively. Why can't I? Like I'm sure that pressure just keeps increasing and it's tough to escape. A lot of times it doesn't until you succeed, whether it's here or elsewhere. So I think they have a lot of guys dealing with that. I mean, Florial has to have so much pressure on him. He knows he's out of options. He knows the Guardians traded for him and that he wants to make good on that trade for them. And they have, not a ton invested in him, but enough that they aren't comfortable parting with him right this minute. And he knows that like, if it doesn't work in Cleveland, like he's probably a non-roster invite guy next year. So it's hard. And we can talk so much about all these hitters and they need answers. But the bottom line is they also need Gavin Williams and the rotation to be in order.